down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What's going on, Savvy Investors? This is your friend, entrepreneur, Savvy Landlord, Daddy Ball, OG, coach, consultant, whatever you think I am you, for you. I mean, I'm not you, but you know. Anyway, this is Steve VanCauwenbergh. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. I'm excited. I say that every time because I truly am. Because I got some knowledge. I don't know if it's knowledge, thoughts, reality, life, to inspire you, maybe even give you direction on where you need to be going right now. How's that? That's like the combo for the lock that sets you free out of the prison of life. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you got to receive this information, because I think it's going to help you to the next level, or just be aware of who you are and what you're about. Because I actually just got this epiphany, understanding it. You know, again, if you listen to the last podcast, you know, I'm just trying to go through this midlife, just life in general, like super duper. And this just really hit me in my head, and someone brought this to my attention, but I thought this was just a natural progression of life. And so I'm going to go into like life skills that I have acquired through this journey. 47 years old. I'm actually turning 48 in September 28th. So holla at your boy. Let me know. But these are some skills that I acquired. So I just started writing out all these incredible skills back then, when I didn't realize how it would affect me later in life. And so if you're young right now, or if you are wherever you are, 50, 100, I hope you live that long. But these are some skills that you may have already acquired that you're not utilizing, or some old skills you thought that had no value that are really valuable. Whatever you are. But I just want to break off these skills, give you some confirmation, and also get into the school system of yourself, buying online courses or something. Learn a skill that's going to benefit for you for life. That's the title. Learn a skill that's going to benefit you for life. And so here's my first lifelong skills. And I got paid while doing it, and it has just paid 10 times fold. I wish the school system was created this way. But my very first thing, that a skill that I believe that I learned, of course, entrepreneur and hustling and all that stuff is just a natural thing because I was broke and I needed to make money. I think those are just natural progressions of life. You know, you get so suppressed, you got to figure out a way. You want a Game Boy, you got to figure out how to get it. You want a Nintendo, you got to figure out how to get it. You want an RC car, you got to figure out how to get it. That's how my mindset was as a young child. But later, I learned this one skill called printing, okay? Which is, at the time, I didn't understand. It was a necessary evil in my mind. I was a promoter, street hustler, passing out flyers to get bands to play at clubs. A promoter is taking an artist and maybe getting them a signed contract, or getting them on the Warped Tour, or getting them on the top 10 of Billboard 100, whatever the case may be. But as a promoter, or in the music industry, you do a lot of printing. I mean, I'm talking about flyers for every event, weddings, flyers, promotions for your business, flyers, design. Now it's social media, it's all digital, but it's all the same in my mind. But I learned this skill of being a print broker. What? That's right. Steve VanCauwenbergh. I put it on my resume. I learned this thing called CMYK, 300 DPI. And if you didn't know what I just said, exactly, that's what I'm talking about. A life skill that I know that I can handle a conversation with the printer. I'm a print broker. And the reason why I even learned this skill, and I think this is what you need to be getting out of this podcast today, is I was printing so much that I basically became my own middleman. I was going to print houses, printing thousands and thousands, $5,000 flyers from Florida, had them shipped on planes, and and I figured out how to be a print broker. I figured out how it works. What's the process, the cost of printing. And so when I figured that out and I became a print broker, I was also selling printing. but I save thousands. I mean, to this day, it is a skill that I know when I print something from one of my companies, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what it's going to cost and what the markup is because I was a print broker. And so I know exactly the suppliers, what's the cost, how does it work, how does it get to emulsion, how does it get on the digital plates, if there's digital plates, is it 4/0, 4/4, 4/1? If you're a printer, you know what I'm saying, you're giggling. And it's a skill that you can make money on, a skill that could help you in your business. So pay attention to the skills that you're learning, or the thing I was tired of overpaying for printing, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I just dug in my heels, ladies and gents, you can too, and learn a life skill. So that's number one. Number two, design. Now, you may think I'm somebody special because I say I'm a designer. Now, honestly, I think creative people are special. Bang. And I wanted to be a designer. I know this is crazy, and this life skill did not go exactly how I anticipated and or planned. But obviously printing, I needed a lot of design work and just specifications of setting up files and PDFs, PNGs, GIFs, all this VRG files, RGB file, an AI file. Do you know what I'm talking about? No, if you don't, that's another skill that I just learned. Not just learned, but I actually went to design school at Francis Tuttle here in Oklahoma City. And that process, I actually found a really good friend through that process who did a lot of phenomenal design for me. But here's the skill. You can broker. I made money on my printing. And actually at one time, this is a story I'll tell some other time, but at one time I used to own a design firm or an ad agency or whatever you want to call it, called ETC Design. It's an ad design agency. It was a dismal failure, but it was fun at the time. But it was birthed out of another need. It was a skill that I learned how to design. And then I realized through that whole process of mastering Photoshop and mastering this skill, I realized I'm never going to do this again, which is a good thing. And my design company didn't go well at all, but it was very beneficial for me that I knew exactly how to design things. And it did help out at sometimes I would do a quick design, but I was also brokering out design work. I would charge somebody X amount of money to design something. I've always been a hustler, but that led to that skill set may have not yielded as what I wanted it to do at that time, but it definitely gave me a lifelong skill that I carry today, 20 years, 30 years later, that is bar none off the chizzy, but it also helps me communicate to my virtual assistants that are graphic designers and creative people. So this skill that I learned has continuing to pay out forever. It's an infinite return in my mind. Just so that I can have a conversation with somebody, that might be fascinating that, hey, I know an Illustrator and I know how to do things and I know what layers are mask layers and blah, 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 blah. That sounds cool and that's all nerd rock, but when I hire someone as a virtual assistant that does my graphic design, I know exactly what's going down and I save a ton of money. I just notice this all the time. This is how I make money on design. I'll do a logo for you. An average logo design could be $250 to $1,500. Real corporations pay thousands, right? I can get a design real quick on a virtual website, Upwork or Fiverr or, Philippine Jobs, whatever. And I might get charged $100 for that graphic design, and I will charge somebody else $300. So arbitrage someone else's labor, design skill, and I would have not learned that from being a street hustler, but I've learned that from understanding the word design. And with design, I understand printing and, understand the difference between raster and vector. And so these are just, again, this is another life skill that has carried me through life. I noticed it with a business venture that I have recently been involved in, and I just became the expert in this little area, and we just propelled the company faster, hiring the right people because I know the verbiage. I know exactly. A lot of people, like my young daughter, doesn't understand this time terminology. She has no interest. She just wants it to look good. She doesn't know how to get it done. And so that's another life skill. Now, when I got into real estate, bang, bang, in 1999, I struggled like every other real estate investor or side hustle person trying to get in real estate. And I realized real quick, real fast, I need to learn this one skill, and that is contracting. And you need to learn this contracting skill. And the reason why is because you don't begin taken advantage of. You know how to hire skilled and unskilled labor. you could save so much money in costs. And just as of July, what month are we in? August 2021, I used my contracting skill when I was in Houston on my apartments, negotiating, laying tile for a unit, and we had 30 units that were retiling, and I can talk to this guy exactly the way his language is. I know exactly what he's talking about because I'm a contractor, and he was at $250 a square foot, and we're getting it done at $1.05 a square foot. That's because I know contracting, a lifelong skill that just pays out year after year, day after day. You can learn these skills. Now, I'm not saying if this is not a skill that it's not for the faint of heart. Being a contractor, you're going to have thick skin. You're going to deal with a lot of wild people that are not consistent. It could drive you bananas. And don't think that you're didn't learn these skills that I'm telling you about. That doesn't define you. These are added on to who you are. They don't. These skills don't. I thought they did at one time. I'm going to regret saying this, but I thought I was someone special because I owned a construction company, and that construction company crashed and burned real quick. It doesn't. I thought it defined me. Steve VanCauwenbergh owned a construction company. Woo woo whoopee woo. Everybody, yeah, whatever. It was a train wreck, and I'm glad that I shut that deal down one year when I finally got my accounting in order. When I figured out that my gross revenue on the construction company was $425,000, I thought I arrived. And then when all my material and labor was $400,000, I actually made $25,000 for all that work. It was a joke, and I dropped that business model. But it was a skill set that I had to learn: how to hustle, how to get jobs, how to sell, how to do labor, cost, how to itemize stuff, how to just do the whole process. Yes, it birthed into another money-making situation. I owned a construction company. Yes, I can handle a lot of conversations with any contractor on the planet, but it wasn't the end result. It did not define me as a person. It was a skill. You got to realize what's the difference between a skill and who you are. And that led into sales. What? Yep, sales. Now, I've had sales as my number one skill set from Jump Street. And I put it here in this. It's not in specific order, but sales, there's no ceiling. I just want you to marinate on that. Sales, no ceiling. Sales is everywhere. Marinate on that. Sales is everywhere. Think about it. I'm going to pause. I'm going to say this. Sales. Everything, nothing happens without a sale. Someone sold you something. You sold yourself to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend. You sold yourself to the banker. You sold yourself to your raising capital. Sales, I believe, is the number one skill. And if you were my son, and that's the number one thing we're going to work on. My son's 10. My daughter's 12. I've already worked on sales with my daughter. She's already locked up on that skill set for the rest of her life. Now, my son, he struggles in this area because he's an introvert. That's okay. He could still sell through what? Email. He could still sell through presentations. He could still sell through brochures. There goes your printing and your design. You feel me? These are skills I would recommend that you would learn, but number one is sales. Nothing happens unless a sale's made. An idea may form in your mind, but you got to tell it to somebody else. That is a very powerful skill set. Now, through sales, I fumbled back in 1992, tried to sell my services as a DJ, failed miserably. Then I realized real fast that the more you learn, the more you make. The more I realized the idiot presentations I would do to brides, and I figured it out. So sales brought me into another skill set to this day, and I actually just taught this skill set. I love teaching this skill set, and I may teach this pretty soon at the Savvy Leadership deal, but the reality is DISC. It's called DISC profiling. Personality profiling, I think, is my best skill. You could say that I'm some kind of therapist of sorts, but I realize I can read your personality. I really think this is a gift from the Lord called the gift of discernment. I could just vibe and kind of feel you out and know what your personality is, and then I just speak your love language. I know that sounds manipulating, and it kind of is in a roundabout way, but here's the thing. People want to know how you feel or how they feel, and you can feed them their personality. It has been very powerful for me. To this day, I still teach it to the upper echelon of the most successful people on the planet. They call me, Stephen, how do you do that? I can go on and on. If you go back and Google up my podcast, just go to Savvy Radio Show, click on it, and type, there's a search bar on the top right, type DISC, and I have a ton of content on disc profiling. I love it, use it daily, but I just recently taught it someone, and this entrepreneur was just struggling on he was putting the wrong person in the wrong position. He was putting an outgoing salesperson in a detailed position. It will never work. You got to find out their personality, know their love language, and serve them up like a cheeseburger. There you go. Serve it up and then hit those fries. All right. I don't even know why I got into that example, but hey, I'm on fire for the podcast. And then I got more skills, and if there's something else that you wanted me to talk about, but I'm going to drop you on this one. And so this is, and I can't, I'm trying to articulate, the chain of order. Like it started with printing was the biggest one to recognize that it was a skill. And probably before printing was sales, because I had to make a sale. I had to sell the club owner to have my band. I had to use phone skills. I learned that skill. I mean, there's thousands of skills that you can learn. I think phone skills is a great skill. No one even picks up the phone, but also communication skill of how to communicate your mission, your vision, what you're trying to sell. You listened to this podcast a while back where I blasted this dude trying to raise money. He had a horrible way of communicating. I think that's a skill that I work on a daily basis. I bite my tongue all the time. I make mistakes, but it's a skill that is on my radar that I'm trying to find, trying to make better. What's your communication skill? How do you communicate? Do you not respond to people? That's a bad way to communicate. But let me leave you with this one. And then we'll end. If there's something that touched you here, oh, man, tell your boy. That's me, Steve VanCauwenbergh, the Savvy Landlord, SavvyInvestors.com. You can go to Twitter. I'm barely on there, but it's at LandlordBook, whatever. Talk to me, but I'm about to drop it real hot. I think that one of the most important skills truly that I felt. Now, this was just logical. I never went out and said, oh, man, I'm going to learn these skills. You should think that way now because I just told you the truth. It's like you heard about Jesus. You need to accept him. All right. I'm not trying to compare myself to Jesus. Like you accept him as your savior. That's all good gravy. But here's the deal. I'm telling you about some skills that you need to learn ASAP, Ricky. And this is one. I started out printing, started out design, contracting. I'm always going to fix these dilapidated properties. I always buy value plays. I always buy distressed property. So I'm always fixing them up. It was just logical for me to get into contracting. And then obviously sales has always been on my radar. And then personality profiling. I use it when I hire contractors. I use it when I'm hiring staff like I just did. But here's the deal. Funding. You can't do this game without money. So all these skills wrapped up in one, but funding, I learned the whole process of banking. How does banking make money? Where do they get their money? Why do they do the factor of 10? What's deposits? Why are they asking for the deposits? Why is there fees? What's origination? I learn their language. I have lunch with them. I build relationships with them. Do I ever want to be a banker? No, but I'm telling you, sometimes when I really dug deep into this skill of funding, bank funding, sometimes I want to work there. And if my son, I would say Maxwell James VanCauwenbergh, yep, go take a job at a bank and learn the ins and outs. I love reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there's so many books that keep coming to my mind. But one book was like, if you want to open a Subway, go work for Subway. If you want to open a sub sandwich shop, figure out the systems and policies and procedures. And I learned something it just left my mind. How do they get the supply? Where do they, man, hold on. I'm trying to think about this. I just learned something that was so powerful. Where they, I can't think of. Anyway, but the reality is learn a skill that's going to propel your business. Learn a skill that's going to propel your business. What is it? Definitely communication top notch. Definitely sales OG. Definitely disc profiling. And then maybe printing is probably old and outdated, but it was to this day, I still own a print brokering company, and I wouldn't say a license, but I keep my vendors open, and I barely run printing through there. I'm surprised they haven't cut me off, but I still get that 40 to 60% discount than anyone else on the planet. Design has never failed me. Contracting, just like I was just last week down in Houston, and I use that contracting skill. And then funding, again, I just used that skill. I knew exactly how to communicate to that banker, exactly what I was trying to. We were talking about points. We were talking about prepaid penalty. We're talking about appraisal for just the land versus occupancy versus what was our cash flow position. All these things that you need, a skill, I believe, that you need to learn to propel your business. And here's a skill that I have kind of just not really been good at. And I coach a lot of wonderful entrepreneurs out there. And I can tell you right now, you know what, the number one thing I see a lot, of course, relationships are important. Marriages are important. I get it. Got it. But on a daily basis, what I hear a lot is how to hire people. And especially with this climate right now, nobody wants to work. I saw an ad the other day, McDonald's, $31 an hour. It may have been a joke. I mean, you think about it, 13, flip it around, $13.31. But it was funny. It was a post I saw. It said $31 an hour here to work at McDonald's, and someone commented, how much does that hamburger cost? Well, here's the gist: hiring, staff, and I struggle with this on a regular basis. I'm fortunate that I have the wonderful people around me that have been around me for 7, 8, 10 years, still working with me. Amazed and blessed and honored. Now, I'm not the easiest cat. I'm uneducated in a lot of ways, but I'm learning how to be a better employer. I didn't say boss. I said employer. I said team member, guide, or my favorite, dream manager. Hopefully this inspired you. Hopefully you have a skill. You may be a civil engineer. How can you convert that into something? If you are a civil engineer, and you might want to build tiny houses somewhere or partner up with somebody. Sometimes you have to little winklish who you are to partner with someone else. You could use your skill set, right? A lot of people that I work with have a lot of money and they have no social skill. Guess what I got? I wasn't even a born outgoing person, but I do have a social skill. I can give you one other tip. 15 years ago, this wonderful entrepreneurs hired me, and I never understood why they hired me. And it was a .com explosion. It was popping off. .com was popping off all over the place. These dudes were making thousands of dollars a day. And I was just kind of transitioning. I just met my wife, and I was like, man, I need some kind of stable income. This whole landlord thing was not easy. And these two cats hired me. Now, they were just typical entrepreneurs. At the time, I thought these dudes were like psycho. They didn't have a business plan. They were just like, look, we want to hire you. Oh, okay. I felt so privileged that you wanted to hire me. We want you to fly to this trade show in Manhattan, and you're going to pay for my hotel. Yep. And you're going to pay for my food. Yep. And we want you just to get as many business cards as possible. So I flew out there. I was honored to be hired by these gentlemen. And all I think I did was roll around and be a social butterfly and tell people about the company I work with. Wow. That is a skill. And I learned from that moment, some people can't talk to people, but I can. So partner with somebody. Maybe it's me. Borrow someone else's credibility. Ooh, come on, dropping them. That's a nugget. Get with somebody, talk to somebody, encourage somebody, love somebody. Whatever you're weak, find someone that is strong. If you're not outgoing, that's okay. You could be the number cruncher. That's the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that are number crunchers. Work with me. I want to work with you, encourage you. You encourage me. Let's do this life together. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Boop, boop. Pass this on. Write a review. I would appreciate it. Much love. But no matter what, buy assets so you can give back.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.